Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Reading the Red this Monday morning. Pouring with rain. It's crazy. We had a wonderful summer. Now it's just like the rainy season. Monday, we're in a new chapter, Matthew chapter 14. And we get all the way down to verse 16 before Jesus says something that's written in red. And the reality of what he begins to say is built around a scenario that occurred. They'd ended up in a kind of a village situation, and they were there, and it was late, and the people were hungry. And in the verse previous, it says, when it was evening, the disciples came to him and said to him, "This place is desolate, and the hour is already late. So send the crowd away, and they may go into the villages and buy some food for themselves." Verse 16, but Jesus said to them, and then written in red, Jesus said to them, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." So Jesus is responding to a problem that had occurred in the context of this situation, and the disciples present a solution. But Jesus says to them, they don't need to go away. You give them something to eat. Now, there were 5,000 people there in that occasion. And this was not a parable like previously that we've been reading, stories that Jesus told to present a truth. This is now entering into a historic fact where there was a real situation, and Jesus has to deal with a real situation, a real problem. And how will he deal with it? Well, the disciples want to deal with it naturally. You send them away. Let them go and buy some food somewhere else. But Jesus, in response to this scenario, this problem, he says to the disciples, you give them something to eat. Now, they don't know how to feed 5,000 people. They don't have the food. They don't have it in their bags. And so they begin to Jesus begins to unfold this story. And, there are two ways to deal with life's problems. You can do it your way, or you can do it God's way. Now, God's way is the supernatural way. And what that means is that God's ways always work, and our ways don't always work. Sometimes we can provide a solution to a problem using our means, our wisdom, our methods, our understandings, our provision, sometimes. But the reality of it is that there are a lot of times when we don't have those things. And the byproduct of that is we need to be connected to someone who is able to intervene when we can't do what needs to be done. And Jesus is the means in this situation. And he says to the disciples, you give them something to eat. So he's asking them, you take responsibility for this problem, and I'll provide for you something. And we get that in the next couple of verses to come tomorrow, next day. So you give them something to eat. They do not need to go away. And when God left the church on the earth and Jesus went back to heaven, he commissioned the church to be that representation of him to the world. So when he went back, he said to the church, I'm off back to heaven, but you be me on the earth. You give them something to eat. You give them what God wants to give to them. You represent to the world the reality of the supernatural God who is my Father. And Jesus is, in effect, then, in that situation, a representation of the supernatural God. And in these days, the church of Jesus Christ, the people of God, are supposed to be the representation of heaven to the world. Brothers and sisters, you're going to meet people today. You give them something to eat. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.